Have you ever watched the life you built get folded into a cardboard box in under 10 minutes? I was 53 the morning it happened. One email, one meeting, one sentence that ended 20 years. By sunset, I'd learned a second truth I wasn't ready for. Betrayals rarely arrive alone. They travel in pairs, sometimes in threes, and they don't knock before they enter. Asterisk, my name is Maggie. I was born in a small town in Kansas in 1968. And moved to Denver when I was 20. I've always been someone who worked hard, whether it was for my career, my family, or my dreams. But what happens when everything you've worked for disappears? You have two choices: give up or rebuild. And rebuilding is exactly what I had to do. 3 weeks ago, I received an email that would forever change the course of my life. A company I had dedicated 25 years of my life to go. No notice, no second chance. Just a simple line: due to restructuring, your position is being eliminated. The only thing I had left was the box they handed me. They called it a restructuring, as if the word itself were gentle. A bureaucratic pillow to soften the fall. Human resources had a tray of bottled water, as though hydration could fix a broken future. I sat in a glass room that reflected my own face, back at me tired eyes. A neat bun that had felt professional in the morning and useless by noon. The manager read lines I could tell he'd practiced in his car mirror. You've been such an asset. This is not about your performance. We truly appreciate your years of dedication. Each phrase landed like a paper cut, small, clean, and somehow bleeding all the same. They gave me a box and time to pack. Time. It was funny that they offered that after a decade of skipped lunches, late evenings, weekends. Just this once, my nameplate slid off my desk with a soft click. My coffee mug left a faint ring on the laminate, and the photo of my kids taken in a windy park when they were both still missing their front teeth stared up at me like I had some explaining to do. I tucked it on top of my pens and the 3 plants no one else wanted because they drooped a little but never died. Denver was in one of those moody winters that can't decide if they want to be snow or rain. The sky sagged low, and the parking lot was a mirror of gray. I balanced the box on my hip and walked out of Building C for the last time. 2 coworkers glanced up from a cluster near the door, and then away again. Sympathy, too risky to show in daylight. I understood. In a place like this, kindness could look like disloyalty. The glass door shut behind me with a soft sigh, and that was that. I placed the box on the passenger seat and sat there, hands on the wheel, not turning the key. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder for a meeting I would never attend. Another buzz, a text from my son, Daniel. Daniel, how's your day, Mom? You eat? The question was so ordinary it broke me. I wiped my eyes with the heel of my hand and typed back, I'll call you later, sweetheart. Then, I turned the key. And the engine did the only thing that made sense. It started. I drove without thinking. The way you walk through a house in the dark because your feet already know the furniture. The city passed in fragments. The Vietnamese bakery I meant to try. The thrift store that always had a rack of winter coats. A man on a corner spinning a sign for a mattress sale with a kind of grace that didn't match the day. I ended up in the grocery store parking lot because there are certain places your car takes you when your heart doesn't know where to go. Church, home, the produce aisle. I stared at people pushing carts, their lives still full of lists and dinners to plan. I tried to imagine what dinner would be for me now. I couldn't think past 4 o'clock. At home, the house looked the same, which felt like a betrayal of its own. My husband, Keith, had always liked things orderly. Disorder made him itch. The front hall smelled like eucalyptus from the diffuser. He kept refilling because a website said it helped with focus. In the living room, the throw pillows were plumped the way he liked them, perfect little squares that never actually touched the person. They were meant to comfort. He was on a work call in the kitchen, one hand cupped over his headset, the other sorting the mail into piles. Only he understood. He nodded at me without meeting my eyes, the way people nod to a neighbor's dog. When he hung up, he finally looked up. What's with the box? I got laid off, I said. I braced myself for the world to tilt, for some kind of rush toward me. A hug, a chair pulled out, a glass of water, something. He blinked, then turned the electricity bill so its window faced up. They finally did it, he said, as if we had been waiting together for a train I didn't know we'd bought tickets for. You knew it was coming. I did not know. I suspected. There is a difference so wide between those two ideas that you could drive a month through it and still not find the edge. You'll figure it out, he added, already thumbing through a flyer from a hardware store. You always do. There are sentences that sound like compliments and feel like punishments. I nodded, because nodding was our language for anything that might turn into an argument if we let it. I took the box to our bedroom and put it on the dresser. The photo of the kids fell forward, and I caught it. I stood the frame back up and traced their smiles with my fingertips. They weren't those children anymore. Daniel lived across town in a walk-up with creaky stairs and a roommate who brewed coffee strong enough to wake a graveyard. My daughter Leah was at grad school somewhere. The mountains looked more like postcards than land. I told myself I wouldn't call Daniel yet. He had a job interview that afternoon. My job was to be fine. In the afternoon I made soup because chopping onions has a way of giving tears a respectable excuse. The knife hit the cutting board with small, satisfying thuds. The radio murmured about a traffic pileup on I-25 and a basketball score that mattered to someone else. I stirred the pot as if you could stir a future into existence with enough patience. When I brought a bowl to Keith, he said thanks, on autopilot, and kept typing. He used to look up when I walked into rooms. I tried to remember when that stopped. A few hours later, Daniel called. "Hey Ma." His voice always sounded like a little sunlight getting through blinds. "How's everything?" I tried to tell it lightly. "Everything's a little restructured, Mom. I'm okay," I lied. A good lie is simple. "How was your interview?" "It was fine," he said, which could mean anything. "But, can I come by tonight? You have plans." "My plan is seeing you." He hung up before I could argue, like he knew I'd try. He arrived with a grocery bag of things I hadn't asked for. Chocolate milk, 2 oranges, and a loaf of bread from that bakery I'd driven past earlier. He always brought offerings, a habit from childhood when he'd leave dandelions on my nightstand, like they were currency. He saw the box on the dresser and didn't say anything because he knows the difference between a question and an invitation. We ate grilled cheese at the counter. Keith ate in the den with the show only he watched. The volume just a little too loud. "So," Daniel said, wiping a crumb from the corner of his mouth, "what's next?" "Next is filing for unemployment, updating my resume, looking for, I don't know, something." He studied me the way he used to when he was 5, wondering whether the storm cloud over my head was rain or just a shadow. "You don't have to sprint yet," he said. "You can breathe for a second. Breathing doesn't pay the mortgage." He nodded. "Fair. But panic doesn't write checks either." We both laughed, and it was the first sound all day that didn't feel like cardboard. After he left, the house went too quiet. I went to our bedroom and opened the top drawer to grab a sweater. A scent I couldn't place drifted up, something sweet, floral, not mine. It could have been laundry soap, a coworker's perfume, the eucalyptus playing tricks. I closed the drawer and told myself it was nothing. There is a version of a person who pulls every drawer out and shakes the truth loose. I was not brave enough to be her that night. The next morning, I wrote a list. Lists make chaos look manageable. Update, resume, apply to 3 jobs, call the bank, research Cobra because you don't know how long the insurance will last. Underneath, I added one thing in smaller letters: don't fall apart. For a week, I lived like a very diligent ghost. I woke on time, showered, put on the soft gray sweater that said presentable but not trying too hard, and sent applications into portals that looked like open mouths that never burped anything back. I cleaned out the pantry. I alphabetized the spices. I was virtuous in all the ways that keep feelings from spilling on the floor. On Friday, my phone lit up with a message from Carla, a woman I'd worked with briefly years earlier, who had the kind of energy that turned static rooms into rooms with weather. "Heard about the layoff. I'm furious on your behalf. Coffee, tomorrow. My treat." She was the kind of person who didn't ask if you were free. She created a pocket of time where you suddenly were. We met at a cafe where the barista drew leaves on your latte like the cup was art and not a paper you'd throw away in 20 minutes. Carla's hair was bigger than memory, a riot of curls that moved when she laughed. She hugged me like we had been friends for a decade. "Not to women who swapped jokes by the printer twice in 2017. They did you dirty," she said, stirring sugar into what looked like an entire bowl of milk. "I always thought you ran that place with invisible thread." I ran my keyboard and the snack drawer. She leaned in. "You're being polite. It's overrated." We talked until the coffee cooled. She told me about her side hustle pop-up boutiques in weekend markets, selling locally made things that smelled like pine and felt like home. "Denver eats this stuff up," she said. "If it says crafted or hand-poured, people practically throw their wallets at you." "I don't know how to craft," I said. "I can format a pivot table with one hand and email a manager with the other. That's my art." "You can learn," she said. like it was obvious. And you know people. You're the person people go to when they don't know who to go to. That's a talent. That's the business. It felt like sunlight to be seen like that. Maybe it tilted something inside me just enough to let the idea enter a life where my name wasn't attached to an employee ID. A life where what I made belonged to me. We met twice more that month. Carla slid spreadsheets across my kitchen table like tarot cards. Booth fees, margins, product ideas, a logo she mocked up in an afternoon because she got bored between meetings. She suggested we partner. We could split the fees, split the hours. I know markets, you know operations. We'd be unstoppable. Keith overheard us one evening and stepped into the doorway with his arms crossed, a posture he'd perfected. "This is temporary, right?" he said to the air, not to me. "You're not turning our garage into a gift shop." "I don't know what I'm turning anything into," I said, keeping my voice so neutral it disappeared. He looked at Carla the way you look at a TV commercial for a product. "You're sure we'll break. Don't encourage her." After he left the room, Carla rolled her eyes so hard I could hear them. "Charming. He likes plans, and insurance, and plans that come with insurance. We'll get you both," she said, tapping the table. "You'll see." For a moment I did see me in a booth with twinkle lights, customers picking up something I had helped bring into the world, their hands warm around a candle that smelled like the mornings I missed. I saw Daniel dropping by with coffee, Leah texting a picture from campus saying, "Proud of you, Mom." I saw Keith's posture loosen when the numbers made sense. I allowed the dream to live for 3 breaths. Then I folded it up because dreams are slippery when you're out of practice. Daniel came by the next night with his laptop. "Show me the emails you're sending," he said, settling in, as if he'd just moved in for the season. "They're fine," I said. "I've been sending emails since AOL." He grinned. "Sure, but hiring managers aren't reading your life story. They skim. We'll make your resume skimmable." He tweaked bullet points, tightened verbs, highlighted numbers I had buried out of modesty. "You doubled efficiency in Q3. Lead with that." "I was part of a team," I said. "You were the team," he said, not looking up. "Let them tell you to tone it down. Until then, turn it up." When he was done, my work history looked like a series of small miracles. "People apply for hundreds of jobs," he said. "We're going to be strategic." Also, he hesitated, then slid a second tab toward me. "If the pop-up thing with Carla happens, we can stand up a simple site in an afternoon. Nothing fancy. A landing page, a name for something that doesn't exist. That's where names have the most power," he said. And I remembered he was the kid who named the goldfish before we even got to the pet store. We brainstormed until the coffee got cold. Maggie's Mile High Market, North and Pine. Blue roof goods because our house had always been the blue one, on a block of beige. None of them stuck. It was fine. It felt good to reach into a future and touch it. The first market was a church gym with a lot of hope and poor lighting. Carla had arranged the booth like she was staging a musical. Wood crates, green sprigs in jars, tags with twined. She handed me an apron that said "Hello, I'm the owner" in swoopy script. "This is your booth as much as mine," she said, nodding the ties at my back. "People will want to talk to you. Use your voice." The day was a blur of hands and hellos. We sold candles poured by a guy named Eli with a beard you could hide a pencil in, soaps from a woman who kept chickens in secrets, tea blends named after Denver neighborhoods, Baker's Mint, Capital.com. Carla took cash with a flourish. I handed out bags with the logo she'd made, and each time I said, "Thanks for supporting small." Something in me stitched a little tighter. We made $632. Carla clapped her hands like a kid on a trampoline. "First of many," she said, and pulled me into a hug that smelled like bergamot and adrenaline. The second market did a little worse, the third a little better. We learned where the good tables were, how to tell the difference between browsers and buyers by the way they touched the soap. We learned that if you brought a bowl of wrapped caramels, people lingered long enough to fall in love with something. I was learning a new language and discovering I was fluent. At home, Keith's questions sounded more like statements. "You're never here on Saturdays anymore. You're dipping into savings. This is not a plan. This is a hobby. It's temporary," I said, because sometimes the truth needs stairs to reach a person. 2 months in, Carla handled the money because, she said, she was good with messy. She texted me screenshots of deposits, the odd invoice, a spreadsheet that looked organized until you looked too closely. I wanted to ask for logins, but asking for access felt like doubt, and doubt felt like ingratitude toward the person who'd dragged me out of the quicksand. One Tuesday she called breathless. Huge opportunity, she said. Last-minute vendor dropped out of the Mile High Makers Market this weekend. Booth fees double, but the foot traffic is insane. We'll make it back and then some. Double. We'll split it, she said. All floated. You can settle after. I hesitated. A sound in the background of her call music. Laughter. Something like glasses clinking made me feel like I wasn't the only audience. Are you sure? You're worth betting on, she said. And I thought, when was the last time anyone said that to me? The market was a frenzy. Lines, dogs, and sweaters. A trio playing covers near the entrance. We sold almost everything by 2 o'clock. Carla took a photo of me handing a candle to a woman in a yellow coat. Post it, she said. Tell people you're building something. That night, she hugged me goodbye in the parking lot. Transfer will come in tomorrow, she said. I'm going to do a bank run early. Tomorrow came, the transfer didn't. I texted, she sent a heart emoji and on it. Noon came, the market's organizer emailed invoices stamped past due. I called straight to voicemail. I called again, the mailbox was full, as if other people's words had already crowded mine out. By evening the number went dark. There are betrayals, you feel like a physical event. A shiver through the body. A tilt in the room. I sat at the kitchen table with the invoice spread before me, like bad news at the doctor. Daniel knocked without texting first and let himself in because he'd kept the spare key in his jacket since he was 16. I had always thought to take it back and never did. What happened? He asked the question, Annette already moving toward me. I told him. I tried to keep my voice steady and failed on the word friend. He listened with his hands open on the table. Palms up, like he was ready to catch whatever fell. Okay, he said softly when I finished. Okay. He tapped the invoice, not to scold it, but as if he could physically shrink it with his finger. This is not the end of your story. This is a messy middle. It's my savings. We'll fix it, he said. And he was too young to be that sure and exactly the right age to be that brave. First, email the organizer. Explain you were scammed. You want to make it right. Ask for a payment plan. Second, we stand up the site. Today, if people want your things, they need somewhere to find you that doesn't disappear with a phone number. My things, I said, the words strange and wonderful. He nodded. Your curation, your voice, you've been the steady hand behind all of this inventory, display, customer care. That's a brand, Mom. Carla didn't invent you. What if I fail? Then we iterate, he said, like a person who lived in a world where failure wasn't a dead end, but a turn. You taught me that when I fell off my bike and you said, we try again tomorrow, with band-aids. He opened his laptop. The blue light made the kitchen feel like a stage. He pulled up a template, typed a name without asking. Blue Roof Goodsand, looked at me. Unless you hate it. I didn't hate it. It sounded like a house that knew my name, even when I'd forgotten it. He asked for a bio. I stared at the blinking cursor and typed. After 20 years in corporate life, I'm building something with my own hands. I believe small things can change. A day on honest scent. A warm light, a handwritten note. Thanks for being here while I begin again. He read it, smiled. That sounds like you. He set up a simple shop with photos he'd snapped at the last market when I wasn't looking. He showed me how to accept payments, how to print shipping labels, how to write a post that didn't sound like I was apologizing for existing. By midnight, the site was live. He ordered the first item himself, a candle named First Snow, and paid full price plus shipping, even though he could have walked home with it for free. When the confirmation email came in, he whooped like his team had won. Proof of concept, he said, and we both laughed because if you didn't laugh you'd cry, and we had done enough of that. After he left, the house settled into its night sounds, the hum of the fridge, Keith's low TV on in the den, a heater vent clicking as it calmed. I stood by the bedroom dresser and opened the top drawer again. The scent hit me, clear this time, not imagined. Lilac. I don't wear lilac anything. I reached past my sweaters and found a small cosmetics pouch that wasn't mine. It was the color of a bruise and held a lipstick the shade of wine. There was a receipt folded inside from a restaurant we'd never been to. 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, a tip generous enough to be flirting. Betrayal makes a sound, after all. Not a scream, a soft ripping, the kind fabric makes when it's been stretched too long. I sat on the edge of the bed, the pouch in my lap like an answer to a question I had been avoiding asking. I thought of the glass room at work, the tepid water bottles, The box they gave me for my life. I thought of Carla's hug that smelled like bergamot and exit strategies. I thought of how my husband had said, "You'll figure it out," without looking up. I thought of my son in the kitchen, typing me a door where a wall had been dot. My phone buzzed. A notification. Someone had ordered capital Com tea. Someone else had subscribed to email updates. The site was alive, throwing tiny sparks into the night. I placed the pouch back in the drawer with a precision that felt like choosing to breathe. There would be a conversation, and it would not be gentle. But not tonight. Tonight, I wrote thank you notes to strangers who had found my shop through a link my son posted with the caption, "Proud of my mom for building something new." I wrote each name slowly, like a prayer. I packed a box with tissue paper left over from Christmas, and tucked the candle inside like it was a bird that needed warmth to make it through the dark. When I turned off the light, the room didn't feel safe exactly, but it felt mine. The difference was everything. Part 2. The days following the layoff blurred together. A fog of emotions and unanswered questions. Each morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach, knowing I had to face the truth but not yet ready to. It was a battle between hope and despair, but for the first time, it felt like the battle was in my hands. The struggle wasn't about fighting the world, it was about fighting myself. The doubt and fear that had settled into my mind like a permanent visitor. Daniel was my anchor. He had always been a quiet presence in my life, the one who could offer a silent hug when words felt insufficient. But now, he was stepping up in ways I never expected. The same young man who once complained about too many rules at home was now offering guidance, pushing me in directions I had long ignored. His words, his encouragement, were like the spark I needed to see beyond the smoke. "Mom, this isn't the end," he said one evening, his voice firm but full of warmth. "This is just the beginning of your next chapter." I wasn't sure what he saw in me, how could he, when I barely recognized myself, but his faith in me was contagious. It was as if he could see something in me that I had long abandoned my ability to rebuild. For days, I sat at the kitchen table, looking at my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keys, unsure of what to write. What do you say when everything you've known for the last 25 years crumbles in one swift blow? How do you find your footing again when you've spent so many years chasing someone else's dream? But it wasn't about the company, the paycheck, or the empty office building I left behind. It was about me, and for the first time in years, I had the space to think about what I wanted. Daniel's voice was always there, like a quiet mantra. This isn't the end. And for the first time, I allowed myself to believe it. I spent the following week diving into something I hadn't thought about in years. My love for crafting, for making something with my hands, had always been there, but somewhere along the way, it got lost. Perhaps it was the pressure to provide, to be the perfect mother and wife, that buried it deep down. I dusted off old art supplies and used paints, brushes, and beads I had once bought impulsively, thinking I'd one day have the time to make something beautiful, that one day had never come. Until now, I started small, a candle here, a bracelet there, and slowly, I felt the old excitement return. It wasn't about money, it was about me, about finding joy in the act of creation, in the art of doing something purely for the sake of doing it. Daniel noticed the change. He watched me smile again, watched me light up when I crafted, and he saw what I hadn't, the woman I used to be. He helped me set up an Etsy shop. It was simple at first, just a few handmade candles and jewelry pieces, but something about it felt right. Maybe it was the excitement of doing something purely for myself, or maybe it was the joy of creating something from nothing. The idea of sharing my creations with others, seeing them appreciate my work, gave me a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. Days turned into weeks. And with every order that came in, I grew more confident. My Etsy shop, which I had once thought of as a hobby, was slowly turning into a small business. The feedback I received from customers was nothing short of heartwarming. People complimented the attention to detail, the care in each item I sent. Some even left messages saying how my work had brought a little light into their lives. But even with all the progress, there was a lingering doubt, a nagging fear that I couldn't shake. What if this was just a temporary escape? What if, like all the things I had tried before, this too would fall apart? Daniel, however, never doubted me. He encouraged me to keep going, to expand my offerings. "What you're doing is special, Mom," he said one evening. "Don't let fear stop you. Not this time." His belief in me became the foundation I built my new life on. The doubt didn't go away, but it became easier to ignore. And for the first time, I allowed myself to truly dream about what my future could look like. I worked tirelessly, spending my days crafting, filling orders, and promoting my shop. Slowly, I gained more followers, more customers. The money wasn't much, but it was enough to keep me going. More importantly, it was proof that I could do this. I could succeed not despite my age, but because of it. Then came the second challenge, Keith. After years of emotional distance, he finally approached me one evening after dinner, his face creased with concern. "Maggie," he said quietly, "are you sure about this? You're pouring all this energy into something that could easily fall apart. What if it does? What happens then?" I looked at him, at the man I had been married to for over 30 years, and I realized something. I had spent so many years living my life for him, for our family, that I had lost sight of what I wanted. This business, my craft, it wasn't just a way to make money, it was my way of taking back the parts of me that I had forgotten. "I've been asking myself that same question, Keith," I said, my voice steady. "But here's the thing. I can't spend another day wondering what if. This isn't just about the money. It's about proving to myself that I can still create something worthwhile, something that's mine." For the first time in a long time, he didn't argue. He didn't fight me. Instead, he nodded slowly, a mixture of confusion and respect in his eyes. "I don't know if I understand it," he said, "but I can see that it matters to you. So, go ahead, do it, but be careful." And just like that, I knew I had found my path again, not just because of the business, but because for the first time in a long while, I was doing something for myself. I started taking classes on social media marketing, teaching myself how to run ads and manage customer service. I expanded my product line to include handcrafted bath salts and organic skincare products, each made with care, each item a part of me. Slowly, the business grew, and so did I. By the end of the year, my Etsy shop was making enough to cover my bills. It wasn't extravagant, but it was enough to know that I was creating something real, something that mattered. And the best part, I wasn't alone in it. Daniel, who had stood by me through every twist and turn, continued to be my biggest supporter, guiding me with his insights, helping me manage orders, and, most importantly, believing in me when I couldn't always believe in myself. One year after I started my business, I stood in front of the mirror and realized something. I had not just built a successful business, I had rebuilt myself. I had found the courage to follow my dreams, no matter how late in life it seemed. And for the first time in a long time, I looked at my reflection and saw a woman who was not just surviving, but thriving. In the end, that was my true success. Not the business, not the products, but the journey back to myself.